Hello everybody, welcome back to Feldy, map of Farmer Yip for Farming Simulator 11. I did a little bit of work since the last episode. I know in a moment we'll review the mission that we're currently under and kind of what we want to accomplish in this map. But I want to show something that we did. As you know, I had a blooper. I wanted to try to earn some money. I ran out of gas. I had no money, so I had to borrow using one of these mods called the Royal Bank of something. Royal Bank of Farming Sim. And these, I remember using these back in the day. They were pretty handy for getting a quick amount of cash, because in Farming Simulator 11 and 9 and let me see, 13, did they have a bank? I can't even remember if 13 came with a bank or if it first showed up in 15, where it would allow you, just like a regular farmer, to borrow in sort of what's called a line of credit arrangement. So this was all we had kind of in the days of Farm Sim 11. So I needed some money to get some fuel. In order to get some fuel, I had to purchase the fuel wagon to haul it down there. So I borrowed. I got the cheapest loan I could get, and which was for $25,000. And you'll notice over here it's buying and selling of 0. Well, obviously if you're going to take out a loan, you're not going to pay anything for it. So we clicked on this, we got $25,000. I purchased what I needed and it depleted my capital. Well, it looks to me that it's kind of on the honor system here, that you need to repay it at some point. And because if you don't, I mean, it just, you can let it go. It does say that it will charge you interest every hour. So I guess it is charging you something, but it isn't visible enough. It isn't in your face. I suppose if you pulled up the list of vehicles in your save game file, you would see information in there as to what you had as a loan. But it really isn't quite enough. I wanted something a little bit different. So anytime you want something different with this game, you end up having to do it on your own. And really the whole lending system, if you will, in Farming Sim, even in later versions, leaves something to be desired when it comes to real life. You know, in real life, there's multiple different kinds of financing, but in simple terms, a business can get, you know, what's called a line of credit, which is revolving, meaning you can borrow and repay anytime you want, kind of over a given time period. I know a lot of companies I work with have like an annual line of credit that they have, where at any given time they can borrow up to a certain amount for a certain rate of interest, and then they repay as they have capital available. Or you have the term debt arrangement, which is typically when you would purchase a fixed asset of some kind. You know, like for a farmer, that'd be maybe a major investment, a tractor, or a piece of land. And a term debt, you know, typically goes longer than a year. I think a lot of commercial loans, you know, maybe go to 15 years and longer, kind of depending on the arrangements. And we really don't have the latter version in Farming Sim, although I seem to recall there was a mod in later versions called Bank of Hagenstedt that kind of tried to incorporate it in. You could at least borrow one term type loan, but it wasn't quite the same. I just know it was kind of over a period of time. It was different from a line of credit. But in any event, I don't think you could have multiple debt instruments. You know, a lot of times farms we work with, they may have multiple term debts and sometimes even multiple lines of credit. But be all that as it may, I realize it's just a game. It's kind of maybe a ripe area for someone to mod. But suffice it to say, we got ourselves into a loan here, and I don't have enough capital to pay it off. And when I do pay it off, it's going to ding me with a transfer fee. So what I did is earlier this year, this is 2023 as I recorded this, I had, well, this is on the heels of a major computer failure in the previous year, 2022. So I had the pleasure, once I got my new computer all set up, of reinstalling all the versions of Farming Sim. And that's a lot of work, you know, when you sit down to do all that and you add every patch, you add every DLC, so forth and so on. It took a lot of time. Well, one of those was Farm Sim 09. And I kind of got back into it for a little while and ended up making a few mods for it, one of which was a bank. And let me just hit the F1 menu. See that up there, it says key left shift activate bank. Well, if I hit the left shift, it's going to pull up this makeshift bank, and it shows I have no debt or in my line of credit. But if I do borrow, which I can do here in $5,000 increments, or repay, I'm going to be paying 10% interest. And I just grabbed the code from Farm Sim 09. I made a couple tweaks to it as best I could and tried to bring it forward to Farm Sim 11. Now, let me just get out of this screen for a moment. We'll come to this here in a bit. This is what I'm talking about, you know, when it comes to code. I mean, this is originally written for 09, brought it forward to 11. It really isn't a whole lot of code going on in here. There's just 342 lines. So this is the engine behind it. But one reason I wanted to bring it up, I mean, it's got its code to do everything that the mod will do. But one of the things I was curious about, you know, we're playing on hard mode here in Feldy. So when I borrow, this is going to limit me to $100,000 on the credit line. And the interest rate is going to fluctuate on hard mode between 5% and 15%. You know, if you were on the normal mode or the easier modes, it would be much lower. But we chose hard, and you'd be able to borrow more. So I just kind of wanted to show that. I think it's going to charge you interest every single minute. It isn't going to wait an hour. I don't remember what it does on the day. But that's kind of how it's set up. So I at least got it so it appeared in game, you know, with the input binding to show up. I'm pretty sure it'll work. I've tested it already in the save game, so I know when we borrow, it's going to put that in there. I suppose the downside is once we, you know, we don't have the ability to just, you know, as we did over here on this, grab a huge loan if we so chose. You know, in real life, a borrower, including a farmer, would have to prove creditworthiness before the bank is just going to turn you loose with a lot of their money. You know, most of us couldn't go into the banker's office and say, I want to borrow $2.5 million, and expect to hear them say, okay, here's this piece of paper you sign, and they send us on our way with $2.5 million. And ditto in Farm Sim. I mean, this would be another area where if there was a modder that could do it, it'd be pretty interesting to try to see how much property the farm had, your assets, to try to come up with a value and say, hey, how much could someone borrow based on all of this? And I realize, depending on who's listening, maybe a lot of this flies over the head of some folks who don't, maybe are young enough, don't know what borrowing is or debt, and maybe for others, you don't give a rip because it's just a game. I was thinking at one point maybe I'd get rid of these other debt mods in here, if for no other reason than just to take or to free up space. Each mod that's in here, I'm sure it takes a little more computing power of the game. But maybe I'll leave them in here. 100,000 that I'm stuck with on this other mod isn't going to be all that much. But I think what I'm going to do, so I have it in front of me, is I am going to borrow, let me see here, how much money do I literally have? I have 22, I'm going to need 25 to 27 to pay it off. So if I borrow 10, that's going to immediately put it into cash. You see what the cash is, 32,827. Let me make sure it matches. Oh, interesting. It's $2 off. I wonder how that happens. That's very interesting. Oh, you know what I bet it is? I wonder if, well, let's see, as minutes change, well, there's probably something pulling it out. Yeah, that this isn't going to register. That's very interesting. Let me pull out of here, get back in. Maybe this isn't going to work quite like I thought it would. Let me borrow a little more. And I'm going to get out of that. And I'm going to come in here and we're going to pay this other one off. It says the cost is 0, which really is kind of a misnomer. What it really should say is a selling price would be 25,000 in this case. So I'm going to hit that. It's going to drop me to 16. So I think it took its bite. Now let me go back in here. Okay. Alright, I'm going to have to work on this a little bit. It still says my cash is at 42. So there obviously is something that's a disconnect. But you know what? I'm not too worried about it. I do need to check it to make sure that the correct number is showing in here. The main thing I wanted to do was get rid of that other debt. I know already that it saves this. Oh, look at that. 16,560. Is that what? Yeah, now it's in sync. So I wonder if it's a matter of timing as to refresh between this mod and that. So I'm going to have to look at the ad a little off screen. Suffice it to say, I'm glad I now have a line of credit in here. I think that'll be a little easier to me, at least for my own comprehension. If I want to know how much I owe, I just pulled this up. Of course, it's charging me 10% interest. And you know, it's really worse than 10% because, oh, I see I see an issue with having the shift key be my input binding. I'm going to need to change that back. Matter of fact, let me do that real quick. I'm going to go back out here. You know, originally I had it be the equals key, but it wasn't showing up correctly in game. I'm going to save that, and folks, we are going to save and reboot.
Welcome to Feldy. Now get your butt out there and start farming.
We can hear the voice of Farmer Yip welcoming us to the map. Welcome to Feldy. Now get your butt out there and start farming. See, this is a reason I didn't want to keep that other input binding. I now have it on the equals key versus the left shift, which will keep us out of having problems with our vehicles. But you see up there in the, now it disappeared, it has the caret key up there for some reason. It isn't showing it, and maybe in Farm Sim 11 it wasn't designed to just use the equals key. Be that as it may, the equals key is what it is, and sure enough, after a reboot, we have our debt in here. The cash probably lines up. Let's double, yep, right on the nose. Folks, I think we are ready to farm. Let's get out of game just real quickly once more to look at our mission. We're on mission number 2, which is on Sheep Hill. Tip the following into the sheep feeding trough up on Sheep Hill. Foodstuff 1,000, that's red clover or peas. Water 50, it produces fleece of 500, and when we have 5,000 in storage, it'll open Kelp Island, which is where we can go get stuff out of the sea, that's the kelp, seaweed if you will, to make fertilizer. So that's kind of where we're headed, and in order to do the feed stuff, you may recall we have a windrower where we can cut it into windrows, but we don't have anything to pick it up. And as for hauling water, we need a bowser. We may have enough to do that now. Let's hop back in game. You know, we have 16,000, I believe. Let me go to the mods. There's a special bowser, yep, here it is, that hauls biofuel and water. Alright, so we need to earn a little more money, and you know, we're in debt right now, 20,000, and so we're in the process of harvesting cash crops to try to earn money to get this. So I think I'll wait just a little bit till we can get the bowser. You know, that'll enable us to haul some biofuel up to the water pump. And I've wanted to see on the bather here, you know, that'd be a perfect thing to put on the line of credit once I have money, so I could get some money off of all these bales perhaps. But too much jibber jabbering here. I need to go down on the quarry. Let's head to our machinery out in the field. Oh, there's our... You know what? I had him marching back and forth. Is he going to turn? There we go. We'll keep him going. Let's head to our combine. I wonder if we can keep him going too. Yep, straight as an arrow. We kind of have our compass up here, if you will, to help us see true north, south, east, west. It's really handy for setting directions, even in these oddball-shaped fields. You know, and again, I look at this, I marvel it's an old game. It still looks pretty good. At least to my eyes. Maybe to someone used to Farming Sim 22, it just isn't the same. And I notice here the textures are off a little bit. You know, this is where, as you play a map, certain things will bug a guy, and probably at some point, you know, when you look at the color of the straw coming out of the combine, and you look at the color of the wheat standing next to it, your eyes kind of do a double take, and you say, shouldn't those be the same color? And it could be what's going on is that the same straw is being used for barley as is being used for wheat. That'd be what I'd suspect, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to dig kind of into the game files to find out. And I may at some point. And this is where I think a great deal of modding is learned. You know, as we play the game and we see stuff like that bugs us, and we want to fix it or tweak it or change it or however we want to put it, we just dig in and figure out, you know, where that needs to be done. You know something, this is even running low on fuel too, but now that I have a fuel trailer, I know I have kind of the means of getting fuel, so I'm not too worried, even if this thing ran out of fuel kind of in the middle of what we're doing. So again, the goal here, we're harvesting wheat, and this is unfertilized wheat, you know, so we're having a crummy crop, if you will, because when the map was set up, this was just planted in straight. There was no fertilization layer put on here. So the next time when we plant this, at least that'd kind of be the goal, assuming we have money to be able to purchase let's crank up old Charlie here. Assuming we have money to be able to afford a fertilizer spreader, then I think we could get some better yields if we lay that down. And the mission said we could open Kelp Island, and I'm trying to remember if the kelp was used directly. I think the kelp was used directly to fertilize. So once we get that out of the ocean, that'll be kind of handy to... I sure wish there was a speed setting that would kind of go the same as a combine. Wouldn't that be handy? But it isn't. I kind of got to alternate between... Yeah, I guess it's full already. That's one thing about this. It appears that things fill very quickly. But you know, the next thing I probably want to work on is like it's about making me sick driving when you just see the bounciness. You move it a little bit, and I can see on the horizons like the camera's just moving around. And it'd be, I think, once you're going at constant speed and maybe aren't changing course, but it just feels every bump in the field, and be nice to fix that. And you know, I played a fair amount of ArmSim 11 back in the day. ArmSim 09 was kind of the same way. We must have just got used to it or something, or those of you that still play it, I guess you just accept it for what it is, but sure be nice to improve it if we can. I think after we tackle our wheat, we are going to head up the hill to, there's a field of barley in here, and harvest that and knock it down. And I'm still trying to figure out kind of a cropping strategy, if you will. We're already ripping this field out, where we have a harvested field of corn over here. We planted 2 fields up here. We already have a corn crop growing. Just up over the hill here, we have some canola that we planted. This is all wide open, needs to be planted. Actually, I think this field over here is one of our largest. Maybe I can zoom out. Field number 26. Maybe not the largest, but one of our larger ones. We're actually on a couple of larger ones down here. But there are some other fields that need to be harvested that are on the other part of the map. And for some of them, we don't even have equipment with which to harvest them. And back in this era of the game, I don't know that it had the concept of withering yet. I kind of think that came a little bit later, although I could be mistaken on that. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. But the withering would come later, to where if you didn't get it harvested in a timely manner, well, you were out of luck, and you would end up losing your crop. But here, we have several fields that I know are available to be harvested, but if we don't get to them for a while, I think they'll be perfectly fine. Because I think in this time era, they would just wait until... Oh, didn't mean to do that. This is a horrible crop. I'm not anywhere near full. I was hoping with another pass he would have sufficient to fill me, but he doesn't. It looks like our tractor over here is... Let me see if I can cycle back to him. Here we go. He's going to be on his last pass. So I guess what I'm trying to say is any fields up there for maybe some of the more specialty crops. When I say specialty, I mean ones that aren't in the game originally. Like sugar beets or potatoes or some of those kinds of things. Actually, you know what? Let me take him off of here. While I'm over here, I'm going to sneak on down. Sneak on down over here and take care of these corner beds. So we'll probably let the potatoes sit. Do we have potatoes in here? I think we have potatoes. Sugar beets, peas, we may end up harvesting. We can at least cut them. I think the only thing we can do is cut them and turn them into feed stuff. I don't know that we can bale them. Maybe we could. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just noticed I kind of chowdered out that little bit of the field. Turn on field detection. Now that's very interesting. Does it take... Let me see if I can... Because it says I need to turn it on. Oh my. That's very interesting. It's already numpad. See, I can't even tell on the number pad. It says turn it on, which would imply that it isn't on. But there's something in there that was telling it that, my field detection is... I'm going to have to fiddle with that and see what's causing that. Because I don't want to accidentally turn an area into field that shouldn't be field. I know we had that in Farm Sim 09. Anywhere you drop the plow or cultivator, it would just create dirt. Of course, that's what it would do in real life. But in here, I would prefer not to do that. I think most of us would. We like having a distinct shape for the fields. Let me, before I get going on that, I'm just going to switch it over here. I'm going to try to go pick up a load again. And you know what? My combine is going to come down to that point and it's going to get stuck. Can I just predict that that's what is going to happen? We all know that that's what he's going to do. Alright, pal. Got any more for me? Oh, so close. So close. Oop, I nailed him again. I'll keep beating on him until he gives me... what I need. I know in another episode I talked about the distance textures that I worked on, and here we see some. I'm not seeing my windrows come through the way I like it to. I am seeing the underlying part come through. This over here being the color of kind of this. So that's something to work on. But right now, with my other, what I want to check on is make sure field detection is off and to figure out what the key binding is. So let me step out of game real quick. We'll leave our combine running. I want to see what mod it is. So one of them in here, I just gotta see switch limit to field. Does this have input binding divide? Aha, so I think that is the slash key. Keypad divide. Okay, that's the slash up there. So let's go here. If I do that key, now let me put it down and see if it turns it off. It does. Look at that. Okay, now it's stopping at the edge of the field, which is kind of what we want. So I'm going to get this guy going. I'm going to take a round around. And it sure would be helpful if it would put that in here. You know, it says numpad %. Well, yeah. And it's totally backwards. Turn off. Well, it is off currently. Yeah, it's kind of misleading. I think, yeah, they're intending it to register as being off. But anyway. Oh my goodness, I can't believe how quickly 30 minutes goes by. But we're going to take a traipse kind of around this field yet, or at least down to the corner here. And as predicted, the combine lost its way. So I'm going to park this kind of on the edge here. We'll come back to it in a moment. And, you know, I don't even know if in more recent versions of Farming Sim, if the hired help is smart enough when you send it to a point, you know, does it know enough that it should turn around and head back the other way? Hard to say. Just hard to say. But we'll get it going again here. We'll see if we can hire it straight away. There we go. I think I got to be careful how I hit the 9 key so that it retains the correct routing for the AI player. We'll go to our trailer. Surely by now we'll have enough to fill us. Probably still not enough. The rounds are getting shorter, so we really aren't getting the yield out of the field here that I would have hoped. But it is what it is. We'll take what we can get, and I think here I'm gonna, you know what, that's close enough for government work, as they say. We are going to market. See if I can get on the road. I gotta remember to drive on the left side, and in Scotland do as the Scots do. Take that with a grain of salt. Head over this little bridge, and we'll take it back here and sell it. I guess I didn't check to see if this is still the highest selling price. I think it is, or was last time I looked. We'll just assume that it still is. Haul it on over here and send it out. Give me money. Nice. Just kind of curious. Let me look at my bank here. 24. Yeah, it still hasn't totally refreshed there. I think it will eventually, but I'll test and see that for that off cam. Get us back out to the fields of Feldy, and then I'll let you all go. It's at least smoother driving over here, and I am still wondering how Farmer Yip did it, where some of these are so smooth, and I know when I try to cut in a pathway on a slope, it is very difficult to do and make it smooth going. Now he's turning around. Well, folks, with that, I think I'll let you go. Our bell is already rung, so thank you so much for coming along for the ride. Hope you enjoyed Feldy. Hope you have an enjoyable week, day, whatever it is, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.